I am absolutely freezing right now. Just give me a minute. I'm heading back to the studio. Okay, wow, that was absolutely brutal. You know one thing I love about this time of year? It is currently 5:30 p.m. outside and it is nearly pitch black. But you want to know one thing I love even more? This is the perfect time of the year to lock in because we are now entering the final stretch. In this video, I'm gonna cover 6 tips for leveling up this winter. All right, so tip number 1 is to realize that the year is not over. Look at this calendar. We still have most of December left. That's about 3 weeks you still have to work on yourself. Now, the mistake that most people make when they see this is that they wait for the perfect time. During the year, they'll be like, oh, next month is the month that I'm gonna start going to the gym more. Or during the month, they'll say, oh, next week is gonna be the week that I start studying more. Or during the day, they'll be like, oh, you know what, today was an off day, but tomorrow I'm gonna get back into it. Now, the core flaw in this line of thinking is something known as optimism bias. We think that the future is gonna present some perfect set of conditions in which for us to pursue our goals. Now look, I am an optimistic person, but we cannot keep putting things off until next month or next week or even tomorrow. Because the truth is, this perfect feeling that we're waiting for is never going to arrive. The present moment is all we have and all that we should rely on. All this is to say, if you are trying to level up this winter, do not wait until 2025 to become that better version of yourself. I know it's very easy to put off your goals until 2025 and to wrap them up into your New Year's resolutions. But think about it this way, if you start working towards those resolutions now, you are going to start 2025 with a ton of momentum. So unlike the people who might be starting the year off cold, no pun intended, you are going to hit the ground running. Alright, so now that you're in the right mindset, let's jump over to tip number 2. You have to guard against the winter slump. Now, what is the winter slump? This term refers to the feelings of tiredness and sometimes even sadness that we feel during the winter. So before we dive into how you can guard against the winter slump, we first have to cover why it happens in the first place. And as you can expect, the reason is a lack of sunlight. So sunlight impacts something called our circadian rhythm, which is our body's internal clock that regulates our sleep cycle and our energy levels. During the day, our circadian rhythm helps us feel energized, and during the night, it signals our body to wind down, helping us fall asleep. Now, when we're exposed to less sunlight during the winter, it can put our circadian rhythm in disarray. We tend to produce less serotonin, which is that feel-good neurotransmitter that affects our mood, and we also tend to produce more melatonin, which can make us feel sleepier throughout the day. And this can lead not only to poor mood and fatigue, but it can also impair our cognitive function. For example, we might have trouble remembering things, we might have trouble staying focused, and this is definitely not the mindset we want to enter the winter with. Alright, so how do we address this issue? First, you have to prioritize the sun. And this is especially true during winter break because I know some of y'all are going to be sleeping in until 10, 11, or even 12 p.m. And look, I don't judge because I did the same thing when I was in school, and I'm assuming y'all worked really hard throughout the year, so you deserve some rest. But make sure that when you wake up, you go outside and get at least 10 to 15 minutes of sunlight exposure. If you're able to take a walk, that's great. But if it's too snowy or cold, maybe open up the windows, grab a chair, and read a good book. This way you'll be enriching not only your body, but also your mind. Now, an even better way to make sure you do this every single day is to develop a morning routine. Having some sort of structure to your morning makes it much harder to slack off and sleep in. Here's a basic routine I recommend you follow. When you first wake up, spend the first few minutes stretching and hydrating, and try to avoid looking at your phone. I genuinely believe that today's younger generation needs to lessen their dependence on technology, and especially on those quick morning dopamine hits. Alright, next, go and get your 10 to 15 minutes of sunlight, ideally outside. Third, eat a nutritious breakfast and make sure you're getting your probiotics and even some protein. And the next step is optional, but I recommend going to the gym in the morning if you can. That's what I like to do because I can just get it over with, and it also boosts my energy levels for the rest of the day. And finally, set your intentions for the day. And I'm not saying you have to do anything super involved, but maybe grab a journal, a pen, and write down what you want to get done. Or you can also do this in my Notion template, link in bio. Alright, so now your mind is in the right place and your body is ready for winter. Now the third tip is to do a semester recap. Now this step is critical because if you want to improve academically, you have to create some sort of feedback loop that allows you to reflect on your systems and your performance and allows you to course correct for the remainder of the year. So let me make this more concrete. I want you to pull out your transcript or your report card and pinpoint the classes you had the lowest grades in. And then I want you to ask yourself why. What do you think impaired your performance, and how do you think you can guard against it moving forward? And do the same thing for your exams as well. Look at your lowest exam grades and write down your weakest topics. Ideally, if you have enough time, you should review these topics during winter break. And then I want you to do the same with your extracurriculars. Which ones are you enjoying? Which ones are you not? Where do you hope to take them in the new year? And then finally, you should also take some time to reflect on your personal life as well. Think about the people and things that bring you joy, and also reflect on the people and things that drain your energy. Now, to make this easier for you, I'm gonna go ahead and make a winter reflection worksheet that I'm gonna link in the description of this video. So this way you don't have to worry or stress about the questions that you have to ask yourself. Because ultimately, the point of this exercise is to make you feel calmer and to provide you with razor-sharp clarity about what you need to focus on. Now, to help you hone that focus, you need the right tools, like Opera, the sponsor of this video. Opera is reimagining the way we browse the internet with Opera One R2, the latest version of its browser that's packed with features to help you remain present, focused, and productive this school year. Let me show you some of my favorite features. So this browser is fully customizable. Check this out. I can choose a specific theme like Midsummer and adjust the colors, sounds, and animations to build my ideal work environment. And then I can lock in with Opera split screen mode. Just drag down any tab and there we go. This is way more convenient than using two windows. And there's no need for a separate music player either. With Opera's player, I can adjust my study music right here in the sidebar. I can even move the player anywhere I want, inside or outside the browser, so no need for extra apps or windows. I actually wish I had this during my time in college. But one of the coolest features is Aria, Opera's free integrated AI that allows me to dive deep into any topic. For example, I can highlight text on any page and Aria will explain it to me. Or I can even use Aria's image recognition to ask about pictures and diagrams from my readings. I'm sure you'll have some free time this winter, so have fun exploring everything Opera has to offer. Use the link in my bio to try Opera for free. And that brings me to tip number 4, which is one of my favorites: set a winter skill goal. Why? Because during the winter, you'll be spending more time alone. And couple that with the shorter days and the more time you'll be spending inside, and that creates the perfect environment in which for you to hone a skill. So I want you to choose one skill, and it doesn't matter what it is. It could be coding, public speaking, sketching, heck, it could even be producing beats. And I want you to commit yourself to small, regular practice. And to be honest, I think it's best if you choose a skill in an area you've never really explored before. Now I know, I've talked about the importance of having a spike or a theme, which is a singular focus that can help you stand out to colleges or even an employer. But take some time this winter to do the opposite. For example, if you're really STEM oriented, try to spend some time learning a skill like drawing or painting. If you're really humanities oriented, try to pick up a skill like coding. Because the truth is, if your spike depends on one subject, that's great. But if you can hone a spike that's at the intersection of 2 or more different skills, that gives you a distinct competitive advantage. Because now you're going to be competing in an arena that's accessible to a much smaller cohort of students. So let me show you what I mean. If you're good at coding, that's great, but so are tens of thousands of other students. But if you're good at coding and you're good at drawing, now this is where things start to get interesting. You might be able to fuse those two skills to create some very interesting projects. For example, maybe you can design a stunning AR experience, or maybe you can design an app that has fantastic UI. And don't underestimate the amount of time you have this winter. You can make significant progress in a skill, even if you practice it for just 15 to 30 minutes every single day. In fact, there's a concept I love that's called the 1% rule, which shows what can happen if you get better at something just by 1% every day. And the results might shock you. Here, just take a look. So in the short term, if you're getting 1% better each day, you're not going to notice a significant improvement. But over the long term, you are going to become unrecognizable. So let's say you're at level 1 of something. If you improve by 1% every day over the course of winter, that's 1 times 1.01 to the power of 90, which equals 2.44. That means you can see nearly a 2.5 times improvement if you just make a tiny amount of progress each day. But what happens if you make a tiny amount of progress, not just over the course of winter, but over the course of an entire year? Well, now that math formula turns into 1 times 1.01 to the power of 365. And that number comes out to 37.8. Just let that soak in. If you get 1% better at something every single day for an entire year, you will see nearly a 38 times improvement. And here's how that progress looks on a graph. Notice how your gains compound. So it starts off slow, but then it starts to ramp up very quickly. All right, so the next tip is to disconnect. You want to know one way that you can get ahead of most students this winter? Read. And no, I'm not joking, nor do I mean to sound like your teacher. But I recently came across a piece in The Atlantic that's titled "The Elite College Students Who Can't Read Books." And this entire piece, in my opinion, is pretty alarming. Here's what it states. Many students no longer arrive at college, even at highly selective elite colleges, prepared to read books. In fact, there's a professor at Georgetown who says that his students have trouble staying focused on even a sonnet. And I'm sure you've experienced something similar firsthand. I mean, tons of people on social media are talking about how our attention spans are decreasing and how young people today are struggling to stay focused on even the simplest of tasks. But I also see some of y'all making a counter argument. For example, you might just say that it's a new world and that we consume information in a different way. For example, through videos and through audio instead of just books. But I'm sorry, that reasoning just doesn't work. Numerous studies show that reading promotes a type of active engagement that just isn't there when you're watching videos or listening to a podcast. Now, unlike watching a video, which you can do passively, reading requires you to forge mental connections, to interpret text, and to build mental imagery. It engages your brain in a way that these other mediums simply don't. And most importantly, reading builds the critical thinking and interpretation skills that I think young people today need more than ever. So I have a request for you all. I want everyone watching this to promise me that you will visit the library at least once this winter. And if you do, I want you to DM me on Instagram a picture of the books you've checked out or post a story and tag me. I will do my best to repost as many people as possible. In fact, maybe I'll start a channel in my Discord server called Winter Book Recs. So whatever you guys send me, I'll put up there and also tag you. That's right, free clout for everyone. Now go and renew your library card. All right, and the sixth tip is to cherish quality time. All right, now listen, winter is a great time to focus on yourself, right? It's a great time to be alone and hone your skills. But on the other hand, the winter is that one period of the year when everyone gets back together. So cherish the holidays and cherish these moments with your friends and family. Now, of course, have that isolated time where you're working on your goals, but don't distance yourself from your loved ones. Now, of course, as much as I love to work and be productive all the time, I always try to carve out some time for my family, especially on the weekends. And I encourage you to do the same this winter. And to make sure you have enough time with your friends and family, try to use your phone a bit less as well. Now, I'm not going to belabor you with a bunch of studies, but numerous have shown that reducing your phone usage can lead to a significant increase in well-being and also decrease feelings like sadness and anxiety. Y'all, I hope you enjoyed the holidays and I hope you enjoyed this video. A lot of these tips came straight from the heart, so if you have a couple minutes, head over to the comments and let me know what resonated most with you and what you hope to implement this winter. Stay warm out there, happy holidays, and I'll see you again next week.